Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. And a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on television, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Spectrum, Time Warner, WOW Cable TV affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV, as well as everybody streaming on pick your favorite streaming platform, including our friends on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. So, looking at this college football playoff ranking as far as the current as it stands right now, the CFP 1 through 12. Boy, what a conundrum this is. And of course, we have our top 5, whatever the heck it is. So we have Oregon as 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3, which Penn State, the only reason they're ahead of Indiana, mind you, which is number 9, is because of an alleged strength of schedule situation, which, in my opinion, is a bunch of nonsense. In fact, it should be Indiana going to the Big Ten championship game against Oregon rather than Penn State. Nonetheless, Notre Dame is number 4, which doesn't make sense because they don't play a conference championship, and that's not really fair to the masses out there. And honestly, it's not fair to other teams that have to play the conference title game. So we're going to give them an astounding round of boos because we can. And believe me, they have earned every bit of that. Georgia at 10-2 in the number 5 slot. They will play in the SEC championship game. Ohio State at 10-2. They will not play in the Big Ten championship game. Tennessee, who will not play in the SEC championship game, at 10-2. SMU does play in the ACC championship game, and that's a whole nother discussion. Along with Indiana, number 9. Boise State, number 10, who's in the Mountain West championship game. Alabama somehow at 9-3, a 3-loss team, is in this conundrum of a selection, and Miami is 10-2 at the number 12. Now, despite being ranked number 12, Miami is projected to miss the 12-team field in favor of Arizona State, who is the projected Big 12 champion and the 5th highest conference champion. I don't know about that. I don't know. Anyway, the latest round of fixtures proves scornful for Miami, who's currently finds itself on the outside looking in the playoff contention after dropping a very tight game to previously unranked Syracuse. Now, of course, the CFP chair revealed that teams not playing in conference champions like Alabama will not be reevaluated for postseason consideration as the resumes are complete. Okay, well, that doesn't really answer too much of a question about those that don't even have a conference champion that are independent, like Notre Dame. which is completely unfair. We'll get back to that later. Anyway, that leaves the Hurricanes in a very precarious position, although they sit in the top 12 for now. And they'll surrender that placement to the winner of the Big 12 championship game between Arizona State and Iowa State. So the victor will be crowned the 5th highest ranked conference champion. That's right, number 5. Ironically, it is the Mountain West Conference that is going to rank above them, which makes no sense whatsoever. Although the Mountain West does have arguably the most exciting player in college football in Ashton Jeanty. We're going to get to him in a minute too, talking about the Heisman race. Anyway, so what will end up happening is even Ohio State fell 4 spots in the rankings after its stunning loss to unranked Michigan. Of course, they get the extended applause because, let's face it, Michigan beat Ohio State for the 4th year in a row. Gotta like that, folks. Anyway, so look at these 4 teams, the first 4 teams out. Like we see in college basketball when it comes to the NCAA tournament, they just really need to do one of those. Anyway, the first 4 teams out are Ole Miss at 9-3, South Carolina at 9-3, Arizona State at 10-2, and Iowa State at 10-2, depending on who wins that game. So somehow a 3-loss team in Alabama is there. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Ole Miss is out at 9-3, also in the SEC, which again makes no sense whatsoever. So remember, the winner of the Big 12 championship game between Arizona State and Iowa State is a guaranteed spot in the 12-team college football playoff field, but as the 5th highest-ranked conference champion, as I mentioned. So Iowa State and Arizona State have that game coming up. Whichever side wins, of course, gets into the playoff. But the rest of the top 25 in this whole CFP thing is a whole nother discussion. Because remember, Ole Miss was 13, just on the outside. South Carolina, just on the outside. And either Arizona State or Iowa State will end up with the number 15 slot. But then there's a gap because then we go to number 17 with Clemson. What if Clemson wins the ACC championship game? And what if they win big? Now that in itself could be a very different discussion. Brigham Young is at 10-2. Missouri, a very good Missouri squad, at 9-3. Vegas out 10-2. They're going to end up at 10-3. Illinois 9-3. Syracuse 9-3. Colorado 9-3. But how about this one? How about Army? How about Army at 10-1? Why is a 3-loss team ahead of the Cadets? That makes no sense. None whatsoever. Memphis is also 10-2. Now, Vegas has basically all that's left to play for in this game against Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State Broncos. So let's face it, somehow, in the craziest of ways, if Vegas wins, they're actually in this college football playoff. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, looking up at the list, Ole Miss is out, South Carolina's out, and Clemson is out, albeit in the ACC championship game. BYU at 10-2, they're out. Missouri is out. How does this work? And Army, still no consideration whatsoever. I mean, in case you're wondering how the new college football playoff format works, is like this. The new CFP format consists of 12 teams. As I mentioned, automatic bids are given to the top 4 conference champions, which are automatically seeded 1 through 4 of playoff rankings. Now, if that is the case, if we're looking at the first 4, the top 4, it doesn't necessarily mean by record, because Oregon would be 1, Texas would be 2 in the SEC, ACC would belong to SMU, and if Boise State won, they would get number 4, and they're in currently. But meanwhile, the winner of the Arizona State-Iowa State Power 4 conference would actually be 5th, and they would be at large. How does the Mountain West rank above the Big 12? How does that work? Anyway, back to this playoff format. So the remaining 8 spots will comprise of at least 6 at-large bids and then 2 highest-ranked remaining conference champions. So it could be 7 at-large bids and 1 more conference champion, or simply 8 at-large bids. The CFP committee will determine the exact breakdown of the field. At the very least, this new format guarantees that at least one group of 5 team makes the field, but didn't say anything about them ranking above the Power 5, or Power 4, that is. That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. In fact, let's get back to this. Well, you know what? Hold on a second. We've got another minute here. So the first round, we have the number 1 team, they get a bye. Number 2 gets a bye. Number 3 gets a bye. Number 4 gets a bye. So in the first round, number 12 meets number 5. They're at number 5. Number 11 is at number 6. Number 10 is at number 7. Number 9 is at number 8. In the quarterfinals, it's 1 versus 8 or 9, 2 versus 7 or 10, 3 versus 6 or 11, and 4 versus 5 and 12. So the games, the first round, of course, is going to be December 2021. The Fiesta Bowl is the quarterfinals, December 31st. The Sugar Peach Rose Bowls are January 1st. The Orange Bowl is the semifinals, January 9th. The Cotton Bowl semifinals, January 10th. The national title game is January 20th. Why don't we just start playing these games into February? I mean, this is ridiculous. Pretty soon we'll be playing the Super Bowl in March, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the college football prediction: Oregon, Texas, SMU, Boise State 4, Penn State, Notre Dame. Georgia 7, Ohio State 8, Tennessee 9, Indiana 10, Arizona State 11, and Alabama. Yes, Alabama as number 12. All right, folks, back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, again, 714-948-0100.
or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, right here in the AMP TV studios, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out, folks, at csncoyotes.com. The College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com, for all their great events, all their sporting events, internal events. Boy, I got to tell you, folks, this is a first-class organization. Check them out again, csncoyotes.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. Big welcome to everybody listening in on our affiliates across the country, independents and networks. Big hello to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, and that is home of the Atlanta Braves. Hello to our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Over in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, that's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus all the other affiliates throughout the heartland, our independents. Big hello to everybody on television and streaming on Pick Your Favorite streaming platform, including our friends over on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. So it was the CFP disaster in the last segment. How about these Heisman odds? So we're going into the last game here before the voting, and it seems as though Travis Hunter, because he doesn't have a remaining game for a conference championship or anything like that, he is at a minus 5,000. So you put up 5,000 to win 100. In some places, he's at a minus 8,000 to win $100. That's crazy. So a couple of these online betting venues have them at some crazy number. Caesar's Palace actually has them at minus 8,000 as well. I'll tell you what, folks, a better alternative, and yeah, probably the better candidate, not by much, but probably the better candidate, happens to be the running back from Boise State, and that is Ashton Jeanty. This guy at Caesar's Palace as well. He's a plus 2,000. So you put up $100 to win $2,000 plus your $100 bet back. It's $2,100. That's pretty darn good. So that's the highest odds on the board, because other places like MGM have them at plus 1,800. And I think there's some other casinos here that have them at a different price too. But end of day, Ashton Jeanty, in my opinion, should win the Heisman Trophy. And look, Travis Hunter plays both sides of the ball, and he's good. He's really good. But Ashton Jeanty is a very special player. Very special player. And he runs like a cross between Barry Sanders and Jim Brown and Earl Campbell all put together. He doesn't have the throwdown ability, as I've seen it, as Walter Payton. But, man, this kid is good. And he's got a chance to break the single-season rushing record in the game upcoming against Vegas in the Mountain West Championship game. And we're rooting for Ashton Jeanty because we're not a UNLV fan of any kind in any way, shape, or form. However, Ashton Jeanty is a super talent. You know, another bit of a shocker here. You look up and down these odds, and you say, well, wait a minute. We've got some other quarterbacks and whatnot, different position players that are driving their teams towards a national title. And Quinn Ewers over in Texas is at a plus 25,000, and his team is in the top 4 in the grand scheme of things. And that's pretty darn good. However, what about Dylan Gabriel? You know, Dylan's got his team ranked number 1 in the nation, and they're going to be the number 1 overall. Dillon Gabriel is not getting any attention, any love whatsoever, and I don't understand it. Because his odds at 25,000 to 1, basically the committee says, this guy is just a product of a pretty good system, which is certainly the case, but at the end of the day, the guy's got to execute. And he's played very well all season long. Jalen Milroe is at 50,000 to 1. Well, he's had some good days and he's had some not so good days. The quarterback over at Indiana is at 50,000 to 1. Even Deion's kid's at 50,000 to 1. Cam Ward, you can get him at 10,000 to 1 at Miami. But go back to Dillon Gabriel, because that one doesn't make a lot of sense. How in the world is the number one team in the nation, their leader, such an incredible long shot when he's been performing all year long? There is no rhyme or reason to that, folks. And I don't know, if you look at the odds for the Big Ten championship, you say, well, hey, wait, what are we doing here? You've got Oregon is a plus 240 at one venue. They're plus 120 at Caesars Palace to win the Big Ten. And here's a bit of irony. Somehow, I don't even know why these rankings are there. This must be old, because Penn State is plus 3,500. Meaning, even if Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all end up with the same record, let's just say Oregon loses, Penn State loses. Actually, it's not possible. Penn State is playing Oregon. If Oregon wins, then what will happen is they'll be the Big Ten champions, but the odds for Oregon are still plus 120. So you could put up 100 to win $120. If Penn State, if you want to bet them to beat Oregon, you put up $100 to win $3,500. That's a pretty good bet right there. Can Penn State beat Oregon? I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, that's one hell of a bet. But somehow, as it stands right now, Ohio State happens to be the odds-on favorite, because if Penn State, this is where it gets messy. Penn State is plus 3,500, and they're playing Oregon in the Big Ten championship. So if Penn State beats Oregon, then somehow the winner of the Big Ten, it would have to be Penn State. But why is even Ohio State in the discussion? Oh, that's right, because Penn State lost to Ohio State. That's how all this stuff works, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You scratch your head and say, well, wait a minute. How in the world is that even an equation, right? In the same way, you look at some of these other conferences. Look, Boise State is the odds-on favorite for the Mountain West. It's a little bit closer. Of course, Caesars has them at minus 350, put up 350 to win 100, and they've got Vegas at plus 250, put up 100 to win 250. Colorado State plus 6,000. Within the unthinkable scenario that somehow they sneak in there. And so you can ask yourself, division or conference by conference, how does this stuff work? Well, Arizona State is a plus 140, and they're the odds-on favorite in the Big 12 championship game. So you look at the ACC. Now, the ACC is one of those ones where Miami, currently at Caesars Palace, is minus 115. SMU is plus 145. So the odds makers have Clemson, even though head-to-head they would lose to Miami, they have Clemson beating SMU, and Clemson just lost to Syracuse, isn't even in the picture. They're unranked. And so it appears that, according to the odds, they've got Miami as the odds-on favorite to win the ACC because they believe Clemson is going to beat SMU. I mean, that's how ridiculous these whole scenarios are. And even in the SEC championship game, they've got Georgia right now as the odds-on favorite at minus 160, put up 100 to win 160. Texas plus 175. And yes, Texas A&M plus 800. So what they're thinking is if Team A beats Team B, then Team C ends up getting in there. That's how messed up this stuff is. Now, Notre Dame doesn't necessarily play in a championship game, so they almost get a free pass in all of this stuff. But why do they not have to play one? But yet Army is 10-1. Army is playing Tulane in the American Athletic Conference, and Tulane is minus 240 at Caesars Palace. They are minus 305 at Bally's. All right. And Army is a plus 190 at Caesars Palace. Now, Army leads the world in rushing. So, will Tulane beat Army? I don't think so. Tulane's good, but they're not going to beat Army. Army's going to go to 11-1, and they're still going to miss the college football playoff. That is ridiculous. So, all of that said, let's go to the odds for these games coming up here this weekend. And we've got Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. And it's Jacksonville State showing the way. They're going to have a tough game with the Hilltoppers, but they're hosting the game. Jacksonville State should win the game. Army is getting 4.5, 5 points, in fact. 5.5 at one venue. Army looks good with all those points. And it's Boise State minus 4.5 at a game right here in Las Vegas. I think Boise State will come away with a 3-point victory. G&T will run for 220. Iowa State, Arizona State. Arizona State minus 2 at Caesars Palace. We're going to go with Iowa State in that one. The Bobcats of Ohio is playing. They are playing Miami of Ohio. That's a very good matchup. We're going to go with the Bobcats in a mild upset. Georgia and Texas. And I think it's going to be Georgia over Texas in that game. The Thundering Herd of Marshall is going to play the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. That one's Louisiana. SMU should beat Clemson in a very tight game. And Oregon should beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. Those are the games for college football this coming weekend. And if you're looking for any big upsets, you're not going to get any big upsets because these matchups are relatively close. But I would say the locks of the week are going to be Oregon. I think it's going to be Louisiana. And I also believe that Boise State and Army. You got 4 teams there to play with, and you can make yourself a 4-team parlay and have some fun with it. In fact, I might even do that myself. Maybe on break, online, maybe I won't. I'll run down to the casino and do it. Either way, we're going to have some fun with college football. When we come back here, we're going to talk a little bit about some futures. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which are available on all podcast platforms such as Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. Also, make sure you check out the store tab on top of the Sports Circus. Lots of great Christmas ideas for all of your friends and family, and even yourself. Treat yourself to a nice embroidered hat or sweatshirt or sweatpants or a jacket, a hoodie, all kinds of great stuff, even mouse pads and pillows and whatnot. That's the sportscircus.com. Click on the store tab and go shopping and have some fun. All right. We'll have to let that play out just a little bit. All right. Welcome back to everybody, like I said. And thinking about the coaching carousel in college football, listen, it's not much different now to what's going on in the pros. Because, look, you have the same coaches seemingly going from college football to professional football. In fact, sometimes they go backwards, too, if you know what I mean. But a lot of it goes to the openings. And is it largely based on what? It's based on money. It's based on the quarterback situation, I would believe. And so you have to ask yourself, which ones are more significant? Is it the ones with money or is it the ones with personnel? Now, I'm going to argue personnel because obviously it's the personnel that you can work with. If you're dealt a 7-2 offsuit in Texas Hold'em, chances are you're not going to win the pot. If you're dealt a bad hand and you don't have some personnel, chances are you're not going to win a lot of football games. You may, but I have to tell you, if we look at the opportunities that are sitting out there, you say, hey, there are some. And of course, according to pick your favorite organization, how about this? We're going to give Charles Robinson, a senior reporter for Yahoo, we're going to give him a little love here and not only call him out, but he wrote, I'll say this for the Chicago Bears team president, Kevin Warren. He knows the talking points to accentuate when he's promoting his franchise to prospective head coaching candidates. Now, in a news conference where he announced the Bears' opening was at the most coveted job in the National Football League this year, Warren leaned on his years of considerable legal expertise and put together his best opening argument to the forthcoming market. And he said, quote, we're going to have plenty of salary cap space. We have a young, talented roster. We have strong draft capital in the upcoming draft, and we have a quarterback in Caleb Williams who has shown he's very special. And in the right environment, he can become even more special than he has already shown, close quote. So for head coaching candidates who offer and often filter their opportunities through a series of box-checking bits, Warren knows how to fill up that positive side of the ledger. And of course, he left out that you have a historically strong NFC North to contend with in the next few seasons. Family ownership that continually fails to find culture creators, an ambiguous power struggle and structure between the next coaching staff and the current front office, and a lot of rebuilding to do along the offensive and defensive line. So what's the point? There's a lot of broad strokes issued that will ultimately define the ranking of the Bears' job. But I guarantee, according to this guy, The overriding value will most often be focused through the upside of a young quarterback, as head coaching vacancies often are. While the Bears reach out for the kinds of coaches and culture and quarterback that can turn a franchise around instantly, it is the primary difference between 2024 resurgent of the Denver Broncos and the Washington Commanders versus a lengthening list of other franchises sinking into the trench of failure. How about the Giants? What about the Raiders, the Browns, and a bunch of others? Look, they've all had their implosions and, of course, to focus through the prism of a quarterback issue for years, if not decades. So, with that in mind, this particular writer wanted to push aside all the factors that Kevin Warren was pitching in his press conference and stick to the quarterback outlook alone. So, if they're ranking the current opportunities for those head coaches, well, you can use some of these bits of criteria. The New York Jets, and how about them with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers? Look, Aaron's declining with old age. Performance is declining. His contract, it's a $23.5 million cap charge if he plays in 2025, including a $35 million option bonus due by the first game of 2025. Conversely, releasing him cost $49 million in dead cap hit. That's ridiculous. In fact, that too deserves some booze. And we're going to continue because we can. Well, that just happens to be for Aaron Rodgers. However, you ask yourself, what is the real bottom line here? I mean, look, position depth first, you've got a suitable backup, kinda, in Tyrod Taylor, and a developmental rookie in Jordan Travis. Not really the best case scenario. Those guys are in trouble. Bottom line, the quarterback situation is a complete mess with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron just brought his baggage from Green Bay to New York, playing with still green on his shirt, but guess what? It's just a darker shade of green. Come on. That's good material, folks. Anyway, he's older, not playing at the same level that he was before. And let's face it, a head coach is either signing up to be criticized by Aaron or signing up to ride out the cap pain of getting rid of him. The Jets also currently draft 6th overall behind the Raiders and Giants, who each need a quarterback, which means that right now they're likely to have expend more draft capital to land one of the draft top 2 quarterbacks or simply draft whoever is left in the pecking order. What a terrible situation that is. How about the Saints and Derek Carr? Derek, another not so good quarterback. The guy's 34. Can you say he's ever been a good quarterback? Yeah, he's been above average. He'll be 34 when the season begins next season. Moderate health, a little bit declining, average to declining performance. Now let's talk contract. Listen, Derek Carr has a $50 million dead cap charge if released in the coming off season versus only $28.6 million in dead cap if released following next season. Otherwise, $90 million in total base salary and roster bonuses the next 2 seasons. That is ridiculous. Show me the money! Mercy. Second-year backup Jake Hayner and developmental rookie Spencer Rattler. That's your depth. Bottom line, like Rodgers, Carr is expensive to keep and expensive to release. It's kind of like some people say with their wives. It's cheaper to keep her. Anyway, in this case, it might be cheaper to keep him. So Carr is very expensive to keep and expensive to release. Unlike Rodgers, he isn't burdened with baggage and rarely creates a fuss when he talks. He also still has moderate amount of skills at his age and at least making him an average level starter when those around him are healthy. So Carr not only as good as a clean slate, necessarily with no financial ties, and not as talented as some of the other guys who also carry anchor contracts. So New Orleans' draft position right now is 10th behind as many as 5 other teams looking for a quarterback. Big, big negative right there, if you know what I mean. The New York Football Giants and Daniel Jones. Boy, this is another discussion here. All right, there's a dead cap hit as well. Contract, the release of Daniel Jones is going to be $22.1 million dead cap charge. no position depth next year. Bottom line, it's nearly a clean slate for an incoming coach. Apart from the dead money left on the books, of course, that downgrades it from other clean slates that owe less money, but it's still an upgrade over the total mess like the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And of course, starting over fresh is better than dragging through another year of a situation that wasn't going to work anyway. And the Giants are currently sitting at the number 3 spot in the draft order, which puts them in a predicament either of having to watch the Raiders draft number 1 or the number 2 overall pick, or expect and expend assets to get back to that number 1 slot. So here's a bigger issue. The bigger issue, what I believe, is Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, it seems to me that Jerry is tanking his team. He's got a problem with Dak Prescott. First of all, why the hell did he ever draft a quarterback from Mississippi State, which is a defensive program? He was not setting the world afire in college football. I mean, look, big health issues with Dak Prescott. Dakota is not necessarily that good. Look, contract begins a 4-year, $240 million extension next year. Dead cap hit $151.9 million after 2025, $62 million after 26, $34 million after 27. No depth at quarterback beyond that. And the bottom line, it's going to look controversial to have Dak and the Cowboys below the likes of Jacksonville and the Las Vegas Raiders. But there are reasons. First, Prescott has significant injuries every other season since 2020. This year, he sustained a second season-ending lower body injury of the past 5 years. He's also missed 5 games in 22 with a broken thumb. His lower body mobility is unlikely to be what it's earlier in his career. Look, this guy seems to have one problem after another. Yeah, he's a good leader, he's a good player, but he's got big health concerns. The Cowboys, I believe, are in a worse quarterback situation than the other teams coming up in the draft. In fact, when we come back from break, we're going to continue with this discussion in just a few moments here on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, this segment brought to you in part by Al's #1 Italian beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Check them out at alsbeef.com if you can't get over to 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you've never had the food, folks, check it out, read about it. They are the creators of the Italian beef sandwich, a Chicago favorite that has reached worldwide fame since 1938. They've been in business. Al's #1 Italian beef. Check them out at alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know you are, TV, radio. In the last segment, we were talking about quarterback carousel job attractiveness, and the Cowboys are in a terrible conundrum because they really don't have a quarterback right now. They don't have the quarterback depth. They don't have what a lot of teams are looking for, and worse with those guys is that they sit way down the trough when it comes to Dallas drafting a quarterback. This is the problem. This is the problem for those guys. And I think Jerry Jones is tanking on purpose so he gets himself one of those top picks. Anyway, the #3 positioned team for a attractive coaching situation would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've got a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. I mean, let's face it, health and this recent concussion, a cheap shot, and I don't like anything like that, but Trevor is a very good quarterback, and the team is growing in popularity. The team is growing in attractiveness to players wanting to play there, and let's face it, they're above the freeze line in Florida. They're in a really good spot in the northeast corner of Florida where there's very few hurricanes hit that area. But Jacksonville, they've got some work to do, but they've got good ownership that also is player-friendly, management-friendly, and fan-friendly. So let's take a look at this Trevor Lawrence situation. Look, his performance, some people say, well, it's been inconsistent. That's because his health has been a little inconsistent, and he hasn't had the best tools around him, but he's going to get more. Now, the contract is signed through 2030 after adding a 5-year, $275 million extension that technically begins in 2 seasons. Now, the dead cap charge of $133 million if they cut him next offseason, $88.5 million after 2025 season, and $44 million after 2026. No quarterback sits behind him. No notable quarterback, that is. Imagine all that guaranteed money. That's crazy. Anyway, the bottom line here for the Jags is that his contract extension far outpaces his actual performance on the field and was awarded on the potential upside that the Jags have been seeking since he was the #1 pick in 2021. So his age, ability, and unrealized ceiling makes Trevor attractive in spite of being overpaid at the moment. He also has never presented baggage. He's really good off the field. The players like him. A lot of people like this guy. And, while not his fault, regardless of what the critics say, that concussion underscores an injury history that is at least mildly concerning. He reportedly is expected to have season-ending shoulder surgery to repair an AC joint on his non-throwing shoulder. So in 4 years, he's already dealt with an ankle and shoulder sprain, 2 concussions, and other nagging injuries. So there's an argument to be made that some of those tough it out and play health issues have hindered his development. And there's still a lot here on the table. Look, this guy's 25, and at 25, he can basically turn 30 on the field very quickly. So at some point, it becomes clear that the expected big strides aren't going to happen. So let's go with the Raiders at number 2. The Raiders have a sort of a broken Coke machine in Gardner Minshew as the quarterback. The guy's 29 when the season begins next season. He has moderate health. Performance is certainly below average. I believe they should give that job to Aiden O'Connell. Just call it a day. Aiden O'Connell is a very good backup, and the guy needs to be given a full-time, full-season shot. They don't have to go hunt for a quarterback. They already have one. Anyway, as far as the contract, 1 year left, about $11 million, dead cap hit. Charge, of course, if they're cut him in the offseason versus the $12.5 in base and bonuses next year. So, again, position depth is second-year developmental backup quarterback Aiden O'Connell signed through 26. I think this kid is good. I don't think the Raiders need to do anything, quite honestly. I think it's embarrassing that they're even hunting. The Raiders are a disaster and then a disaster again. Bottom line, from a cap perspective, combined with the ability to part ways with Minshew fairly cheaply, this is a relatively clean slate quarterback position. There's no massive contract weighing them down in the future, no high-level veteran with high-level health issues, no highly paid mid-20s starter who can't hold a higher gear consistently, plus the Raiders are currently holding the number 2 pick in the draft and may very well ascend to number 1 by the end of the season. Now that means if there's any high-level rookie quarterback to be had in the draft, some will argue that there is not. I'm one of those guys. The Raiders have the positioning to select the player without the necessarily paying extra draft capital to get there. And if we look at just the quarterback spot and compare the talent and financial freedom of having an ability to maneuver in any direction, this is actually a rather enticing spot. So the Raiders are in a pretty good spot. I normally don't speak too terribly positive of them, except if I'm talking to my good friend Tom Flores. Tom's one of those guys that I always want to talk to. Now, the number 1 spot for a head coach right now from an attractiveness standpoint is undeniably the Chicago Bears. Of course, the Bears, yes, always get that round of applause. They've got Caleb Williams, a rookie this year. He's 23, and his health is good. Performance inconsistent. Well, again, he doesn't have an offensive line in front of him. Contract 3 years left on his rookie deal, plus a 5th-year option. So position depth, Tyson Bagent, I wouldn't really say that's a lot of depth right there, but at the end of the day, the Bears are probably the best available situation for a head coach. The talent level and ceiling is high. The contract is advantageous, and Williams has stayed healthy thus far. Plus, he has a young backup who is capable of coming in and winning games in the spot just in case. Now, the only problem here is coaching and development. And if you believe you're the right guy for that job, then Williams is a no-brainer choice at the best combination of age, cost, and potential to improve. No reason to go deep here. It's clear that this is the best intersection of talent versus cost. So not everyone is going to agree with these rankings, so have at it. I don't really care. But let's think about this. An interesting side note to the Bears, of course, in the firing of Matt Eberflus, is there are some people in the organization who believe that his lack of immediately owning full responsibility for the decisions at the end of that loss, actually the Thanksgiving loss, expedited his firing. While Matt was likely going to get fired without a miracle run in the remaining schedule for the Bears, two team sources said the front office and elements of ownership felt the coach came up extremely short when he twice had an opportunity to definitively steer the late game time management, which he didn't. I mean, look, Eberflus really messed everything up. I can't say the word I want to because this is an FCC-regulated show, but I can't say that he fouled it up. How's that? In each of those opportunities, speaking to the media, immediately after the loss and then the next day on a Zoom call, there was a feeling that Eberflus tried to defend the failure to use Chicago's final timeout at the end of the game rather than simply admitting the error and putting it on himself. And of course, that irked some in the organization who felt Williams was taking some unfair criticism for the last seconds of the game that were more an issue for the coach, failing to step in and falling asleep at the wheel rather than the quarterback. So don't be surprised if this is the kind of thing that weighs heavily on the Bears' search for the next head coach. while there is a presumption in some corners that Chicago will put a premium on searching for an offensive tactical and tactician, let's put it that way, to make the most of Caleb's considering ceiling. I would be surprised if the first bullet point was not on the checklist for the front office and ownership to be finding a strong possible leader and culture creator available. Now, if that's the case, it will be fascinating to see if guys like Bill Belichick or Pete Carroll come in to focus despite their age alongside the younger options like Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, former Tennessee Titans coach Mike Vrabel, which those are both two good guys, but I'll be curious to see that how that actually contrasts, kind of like with what Washington has done with their offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, who left behind a bit of a culture flop with the Arizona Cardinals when he was fired. I think Belichick or Carroll are the right guys, but we'll see what happens. Now, one of the data points that should get a lot of attention this offseason in terms of Deshaun Watson's future with the Browns is how Jameis Winston continues to draw out the best versions of the skilled players around him. So I think the Cleveland Browns may be one of those teams that are also hunting a little bit too. So all of that said, let's quickly run into the odds for the NFL for this weekend. It's the Packers and the Lions. This one looks like the Lions are going to get themselves a home win, and I would lay the 2.5 as they opened up at. The Vikings should clearly beat the Falcons, lay the 5. You should be okay there. The Giants probably will lose their game to the Saints, looking for that draft stock. Look for the Saints to cover the 3. The Jags at Tennessee. Tennessee, I have to tell you, I'm not impressed, but then again, I will also take Tennessee minus the Jags with no Trevor Lawrence. I'll lay the 3. The Raiders at the Buccaneers. This one screams Bucks, but guess what? The Raiders are a pretty good road team, and the Raiders are sitting in the number 2 spot. Don't be surprised if the Raiders don't cover there. The Browns are at Pittsburgh, and the Browns are good enough to compete with anybody. In fact, the Browns just beat them a couple of weeks ago. And you know what? The Browns will probably cover again. They'll cover the 7 points. That's what Caesar's got them at. And then you've got the Panthers and Eagles. The Panthers have a resurgent Bryce Young, and don't be surprised if the Panthers don't even win this game. Everyone says, well, the Eagles have the best defense in football. Maybe so. The line opened up at 7, and it's up to 13, and to me, that's screaming. Everybody is betting on Philadelphia, so I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. The Jets are in big trouble against a very well-oiled Miami Dolphins machine. That is the Dolphins lay the 5. You'll be okay there. The Seahawks, Battle of the Birds, and the Cardinals. Seahawks are traveling to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Geez, you never know what you're going to get with either of these teams. Just grab some popcorn and watch this game. Don't even bet it. The Bills are playing in L.A. at the Rams. The Bills' defense might actually end up on the short end of the stick here, only against the spread. They'll win the game, but I don't think that the Rams will lose by more than 3.5. I think it'll be a 3-point game. Take the Rams with the 3.5. The Bears are +4 at San Francisco. And remember, San Francisco is minus McCaffrey, but I'll still take the 49ers because the Bears don't really have a coach. Chargers at the Chiefs. Chargers win this game. Take the 4. And on Monday night, it's the Bengals at Jerry Jones. The Bengals are laying 5.5. The Bengals will win the game. They'll keep their playoff hopes alive. Dallas, you've seen better days. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.